Welcome, everybody, to our 12th Lift Up live broadcast with my co host, Rosey Grant, and I. We are back, and it's been nearly a year, hasn't it, Rosey?
Yep,
Coming up to our 1
12,
year.
12
1
live
year.
broadcasts now. That's
Oh,
crazy.
I know, 12. It is insane. And what a community and a journey we've built and is continuing to grow, which is super exciting. So we're about to reach our 1 year anniversary. I think it's on the 29th of September. And this month we are absolutely excited with this topic of securing a seat at the top, harnessing leadership success, with two phenomenal key speakers who's going to be joining us today, Stella Vnook and Jeanne Hecht, who are currently sitting backstage, and we really look forward to bringing them in. But first of all, if you are new to joining our Lift Up live broadcast, then really I just want to share with you our mission statement. So we are all about connecting, championing, and inspiring women right across the life sciences industry, all the way from academia through to C-suite board level. And as a group of ambassadors here within Fraser Dove International, the executive search life sciences talent consultancy, it was about a year ago, so August of last year, that we came together as a group and just thought, what can we do about giving back into the life sciences space, leveraging off all of the wonderful relationships we've got with women in the industry. And actually, it's completely snowballed. We've got some great male ambassadors as well. And this is, like Rosey said, 12th live broadcast with over 30,000 global views now. So thank you so much for everybody that's been a part of this journey, and welcome to everybody that's new and joining us for the first time. So I'm going to do a very quick introduction into myself before passing over to my co-host Rosey. So I'm Louise Williams. I'm the operations director here at Fraser Dove International. I've been in staffing for 19 years in January and 10 years in life sciences, where I actually started a journey as a medical recruiter, focusing specifically in the physician, really preclinical all the way through to commercialization and medical affairs area. Before then, moving into management, director, and now leadership role here at Fraser Dove. I've got two children. I've got a 7-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, both in which keep me super busy outside of work. So that's a little bit about me. Obviously, hugely passionate about the life sciences industry that we're in. Can't imagine being in any other industry now. So now I'm going to post this over to you, Rosey. It'd be lovely for you to do a quick intro.
Yeah, no, thanks. And really excited that this is 12 of 12 now.
Yeah.
But yeah, from my side, been at Fraser Dove for 3 years. Prior to that was actually a part of the BTG Boston Scientific Journey, and had the absolute pleasure of having some amazing female leaders and mentors that to this day I'm still well connected with. And they really showed me and gave me the opportunity to not ever think that, as the only girl in the room, you're not going to get anywhere. So I want to hopefully be a part of making that change for everyone else. But yeah, super excited to be here. I can see that people are already joining us and saying hello. What I will say is the comments are interactive. We'll be able to pull you up on screen. So say hello, build your network, and tell us where you're coming from today, because it helps us get a better understanding and really of who we're speaking with.
Absolutely. I was going to say, hello, Chloe. It's great for you to be here. She's one of our marketing executives here in our London office. We've also got Sean. Hi, Sean, dialing in from Farnham. Historically, for those of you that obviously are part of being involved in these live broadcasts on a monthly basis, you will know exactly as Rosey said, pop in where you're dialing in from, maybe even the position or where it is that you're working globally. But we tend to get such a phenomenal global reach. It's really lovely to see everybody dialing in. So let's get connected. And I
Yeah,
think there's now
there.
coming through, actually. It's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. So we got
So hi, Katie.
we got Laurie coming in here
Yeah.
from Tampa, Florida. LinkedIn user from California. If you come up like this, it just means privacy
Mhm.
settings. So hello and welcome. And as you said, we also got Katie coming in from the UK too. Um, Lots of people saying hello. Be sure to connect and let us know where you are in your career journey at the moment. Obviously, this is going to be a conversation that
Mhm.
you don't often get for free. So please make the most and network.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much. We've got Masgood. Hi, girls. I don't know whether you know um, know this individual, but thank you for dialing in. It's great to have you here. We've also got Crystal from Alaska. We've got Dushyant from India and Sarah from Zurich. Wow, they're all coming in now. So it's absolutely brilliant to see. So to keep all the comments coming. But without further ado, I'd love to bring in our key speakers before we kick off with some questions. So I'm going to pop in Stella. Hi, Stella. Lovely to have you here today. If you would do us the honor of an introduction to the audience.
Well, hello. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I've really gotten to know both of you. And I think what you're doing is amazing. I think that when I started out, I wish I would have this kind of a community to help me along my journey. So it's been a, oh my God, 30-year journey. And I did start from the bench. So scientist by training, a biology, studied a lot of different things and then transitioned into clinical settings. So I did my research at Temple Emergency Department and did actually some of my pharmacy practice at Temple Fox Chase Cancer Center. And like many of you, I really thought that I was going to dedicate my career as a practitioner in oncology. And then I did a pivot and I transitioned into pharma. So that took me into world of large pharma. I started with Merck from medical and pharmacy affairs into a business world. So there you go, 25 years in pharma. And then I did another pivot. And after doing all the roles that I never imagined in business and M&A and marketing and launching products, I went back and decided that, well, I would love to go beyond VP and become the CEO. So how did I do that? It was an interesting journey, but long story short, it's been 7 years. I have been a founder and CEO of multiple companies, and 2 of the companies that I'm a founder of and I hire an independent C-suite. And I just accepted a new CEO position today as a CEO of another company. So I have been good about giving back because I think it's important to build a network through LiftUp. So I'm here to answer any of your questions. How do you get from one place to another? Because I think transitions are difficult, but once you decide that you have to pivot, I feel like we're there to support you. So I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Stella. What an introduction. And first of all, obviously, a huge congratulations on your promotion to CEO, which was today, wasn't it, as I understand? So what a day for you. But thank you. It's hugely inspiring as well having you here and really looking forward to this conversation today. So now we're going to bring in Jeanne. We can get Jeanne. Hi, Jeanne. Lovely to have you here with us. Thank you so much for coming in. If you could do an introduction as well to the audience, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Hello, everyone. And thanks to Rosey and Louise and for Stella for having me here today. I'm really excited to have the conversation with you guys. I have spent the last 25, almost 30 years in the industry of life sciences and pharmaceutical services. Spent a tremendous amount of that time. I started out actually really early on in my career. I was, after graduating from the University of Michigan, Go Blue, I was a special needs teacher and taught 7th and 8th grade kids special needs. Pivoted when I came back to the mainland. I did that when I was living in Hawaii, and I came back to the mainland United States and started working at Park Davis, which is now Pfizer. Then I went on to the University of North Carolina's Cancer Center, then spent 16 years working through at Quintiles, which is now IQVIA, living both in the US and domestically or internationally in Singapore. And then I went over and was the chief operating officer and board member for a publicly traded medical imaging business and then CEO of an ophthalmology firm. And for the last 3 years, I have been supporting private equity and VC companies as kind of a river guide, helping them through their investment thesis, understanding which organizations they should evaluate, how they should evaluate organizations to look at potential acquisitions or investment opportunities. And then going through that diligence with them and eventually through a transaction where they become owners of the organization or partial minority or majority shareholders of an organization. And then eventually I sit on those boards as either chairman or as a non-executive director. I've spent my time both supporting VCs and private equity, as well as sitting on the boards of publicly traded organizations. And throughout my career, had a lot of different types of roles, both in operations, so project management. I'm a PMP at heart. And then on through to sales. I've spent a number of years as a commercial leader, as well as carrying a bag back in the Philadelphia area, Stella, and enjoyed living there for a couple of years. So it's I'm looking forward to answering the questions today and having a really engaging discussion with the Lift Up community. For me, engaging across and developing agency with many people across the globe is super important. I think one of the most important skills that we can have as executives is our network and our ability to build and manage that network. And so as much as I can do to help others, and as well as they can help me in my career journeys, or in any kind of personal pursuit, is also something that I look forward to doing. So thank you very much for having me on the discussion today.
Wow, thanks, Jeanne. That's an introduction. And I almost feel like you probably didn't have enough hours in the day to, I mean, what a career as well. So I'm so pleased for both of you to really be sharing your experiences and your journey, and hopefully dropping your knowledge to, other individuals that are looking to start maybe their journey going through to C-suite or to board level roles. So just want to engage some of the audience, Rosey. I'm just very aware we've got lots of people saying hello.
We've had a few coming in saying go blue.
Go blue,
and lots of appreciation for both speakers. And here, Stella, you're amazing. And obviously people coming in from all over again. So Libette's actually going to be coming live with us in the future, which is really exciting. And we've got individuals coming in from Brussels. Pooja, great to see you. I'm glad that you've joined us today. And of course, across the US. Now, it's important, everyone, as we move into that live Q&A section, please put a capital Q at the front of your question, because sometimes they can get lost, and we're going to try and get through as many as we can today. But I'm really excited to get started. So maybe we'll jump in with a question and start to set the scene. Shall we, Louise?
Yeah, 100%, Rosey. So we've obviously collated quite a few questions that have come through from our Lift Up community page. So again, but keep them coming through this comments feed, as Rosey mentioned. If you've got anything burning questions you'd love to ask both Jeanne and Stella. Typically, we always ask, why Lift Up, I guess, and why was it important for you to be a part of the community group and a part of the broadcast today. Stella, come to you first with this question.
Well, I think this is a beautiful thing. I mean, 10 years ago when I wanted to, I mean, it was a want. I didn't know how to actualize. I've had multiple vice president roles and C-suite roles. How do I transition to a board? How do I get a position on a board, or how do I become a CEO? I really didn't know who to ask from the organization perspective. I just started reaching out to people, and it was a long list of people to ask, to connect, to ask questions. So having this type of a community is beautiful. And also, I didn't really know who do I talk to about what skills do I need to have, and actually, how do I get them? I'm through my degrees and MBAs, and so now what? Where do I get this degree and how to become a CEO? So I think it's an amazing opportunity to be part of Lift Up.
Yeah, thank you, Stella. And it's funny, we've seen some relationships really grow, haven't we, Rosey, through the community group, and actually often or not, quite a few key speakers realized, I mean, one back in, I think, March, realized they were literally 30 minutes down the road from each other in Chicago. So they kind of just met up and had a coffee and have actually stayed in communication and contact since, which is lovely. But Jeanne, come to you with the same question, I guess. Why was it important for you to join the broadcast today?
So I think that we're in a really large industry that spans many different types of companies that make up the industry, and many different people that then make up those organizations, and across many countries. And so Lift Up is kind of the ability to shrink that and allow us to understand how we can connect across borders, across companies, and across positions. So for me, the ability to continue to expand my network, to engage with individuals, is what drove me to agree to sit on this broadcast with all of you, to potentially meet people because of this broadcast, and to continue to be a curious learner that I am and engage with others across the globe and across the industry.
Yeah, I love that.
Amazing.
Thank you, Jeanne. So should we jump in with a question then here, which I think mentioning something that you just talked about, Stella, about your journey when you're at that VP kind of level. At what stage in your career should you look to diversify your skill sets to start considering a future board level role? So what are your thoughts with this now? Come back to you, Stella, first with this question.
Well, it depends on when you realize what's your final destination. I think when I started in the industry, from the scientist to a manager, my first sort of stopping post and excitement was around the director position. And then when I have become an expert, and for me, it was marketing and managed markets and done everything, I was thrilled to get to that next level. And I sort of coasted on that level and enjoyed what I can do. And then I realized that, I would love to be able to do more. I would love to be able to marry my science ability to know the assets and give more and maybe run a company. So at that point, I've decided, but it could be different for some other people. I talk to people that are clinicians that want to transition into pharma for different reasons. And also, I talk to people that are from finance world and from all, sort of coasts of life. And they realize, regardless of what journey of their career, what my advice would be, as soon as you know you want to go higher, you want more, this is when you act on it. Because for a while, I've listened to people that perhaps said, you should be happy where you are, or you should be proud of what you've accomplished, and sort of putting a little bit of a ceiling on, you should stay where you are. And for a while, I've taken that, that I really told myself that that's enough. And then that period of time, I wish I would have had lift up or somebody to lift me up and say that you can go further. So as soon as you want more, this would be the time.
Yeah, I think without going down a rabbit hole, I think that you do tend to find women more than men end up coasting in quite a lot of management or director level roles for one reason or another. So I think it's breaking that glass ceiling, right, which is a term that we've used a lot over the last decade. But Jeanne, come to you with this question. I guess I'm thinking from a diversity perspective here of skill sets as well. I remember we had a Lynn Sullivan a few broadcasts ago. She described her journey upwards as a bit of a jungle gym, as opposed to that straight career ladder that's often used, as a visual and a term. What are your thoughts with that, Jeanne?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, and I was writing some notes down as Stella was talking. So the first thing I'd say is, if you want to get on a board and and you're asking yourself this question, the answer is now, right? And so it's not in a year or 2 years or 3 years, because in order to be on a board and really be impactful, you have to be broad, not just deep. And so your ability to hone your skills, number one, in finance is critical. To hone your skills as it relates to general leadership, general management, understanding the different levers that help a business make money, contribute to society, and have happy employees is critical. The other thing I would say for you is, for anybody listening to this, is when you're looking at diversifying your skill sets, don't only think of your skill sets, diversify your network. And many people go really deep in an organization. They know everybody within that vertical, but how well do you know people in the industry within your organization that are more broad, that have the position? So befriend the IT folks, befriend the people in manufacturing, befriend the people in regulatory, and think of HR or finance, et cetera, if those are not your skill sets. Because those are the skill sets you're going to need when you're having to face different types of challenges or discussion topics that have made it to a board level.
Yeah, I think that's.
Can I just comment on that, because this is actually a continuous journey, right? It's not a one check mark you've done. You've learned finance. So actually, Jeanne is a perfect example. So look at the two of us. One of my biggest gaps when I looked at my career was I didn't know how to evaluate assets from a venture perspective. I knew how to look at a clinical assessment, but it was never known to me that as a CEO, 80% of your time you spend pitching and repitching VCs, right? So I actually had to get to know Jeanne of the world, right? I didn't know that world was going to be so important to me. Now it's 80% of my time. So if I were just to look vertically on, I'm good at operations, commercial launch, right? Mastering the product execution. But you constantly evolve in a CEO role based on, the size of the company. The company I just took on is a larger company. It's an established 7-year company. So their needs are going to be very different than, a startup from a university. So that's a true example of this is what we all have to do. So Jeanne's skill set is actually a perfect example of what I was completely lacking when I first started in this journey. When I took on my first board role, I had to have a quick realization, oh my God, I need to learn this quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do this. So thank you, Jeanne, for bringing this up.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely it's absolutely right. I think often the perception versus the reality of these C-suite board level roles are often very different. And I don't know whether a question perhaps on the back of this then is sometimes do you find that that CEO or that C-suite level role could change depending upon the business and the size? For example, medical physicians was my niche when I worked as a recruiter. So when I was working on chief medical officer roles, it was a case of the individuals that had the clinical development early phase experience along with the medical affairs commercialization of a product were more likely to fulfill the roles because they had that broader skill set, especially at biotech level where it's small and therefore you've really got to roll your sleeves up and you've got to be involved and have a really broad understanding of everything. As the business kind of grew or expanded, you kind of had people that sat typically more into their vertical pillared lines, if you like. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I think when you look at companies of different stages, so I'll take I had a roundtable discussion last night with a group of CFOs that was put on by RSM. And in that discussion with them, a lot of them were asking me about, the needs of the CFO and how the CFO engages with boards. One of the things I said is that a CFO isn't always a CFO, isn't always a CFO. So sometimes companies that start and they are what I would call very early stage businesses. The CFO is more of a bookkeeper or a controller as compared to somebody that really understands how to raise capital, deploy capital, understands the levers within the organization to change. A CFO, for example, for a revenue generating company is often different than a CFO for a non-revenue generating company. Mm-hmm. So when you think about that and you think about the different types of people that you put into a role, even that happens at a CEO. So a CEO of an early stage company is very different. And the skill sets that individual needs is so different than what you need for a CEO for a late stage, commercialized products, publicly traded organization. So I think it's the question that people need to ask themselves is, what skill sets do I love using? What do I really enjoy doing? And then align that with the types of C-level position that they want to go after or board position that they want to go after.
I think that's absolutely sound advice. And connecting that in with the branching out into your network, I think is absolutely sound advice. So thank you for that, Jeanne. Wow, that was one question. I feel like we've we've kind of branched off.
I was going to say, kind of, it flows quite nicely into what Jeanne's just said. But what would you say are the key questions? Obviously, one of them is, what do you like doing? Like you just said, Jeanne, but what are the key questions you need to ask yourself before taking on that C-level or board level position? I will come your way, Stella.
Okay. Well, what I would say is if it's a first sort of venture into a board position, there's two things that you might want to consider. What is your strength from the skill set that at this point it's a first way in, right? So is it really strong commercial expertise, or perhaps it's a very strong medical expertise? So a lot of times if we're launching, especially in cell therapy or oncology, very technical products, it's important to understand what an oncologist would think. So there could be a aspect of excellence within your current position, or it could be passion. A lot of people are driven by passion. And I think it's very, very important. And that's what gives the sort of courage sometimes to stay in and go further. I say passion is not enough on its own, and it's definitely not everything, but it's a good start. So if you are passionate about specific area, like I lost my mother to ovarian cancer. So regardless of what I do, I will always look for that technology, that company. I will support it, sponsor it, fund it, invest in it if I feel that's going to offer a cure. So if you have that passion, then it should be an element of what
Drives
should
you.
go for, and then build on that.
So it's like you kind of lean into your niche, which for you was that marketing management, managed markets, and then you also follow your passion is like a perfectly intertwined, hopefully North Star for where you should be heading.
Yeah.
It's like we've known each other our whole lives. That's exactly what I've done.
Yeah. And I've had some good conversations with Jeanne around purpose and the why. And so, Jeanne, what are your thoughts with this question?
So when I think of, if I'm going to take it from the board position and before taking on a board role, so there's a really easy question is, do I have the time to take on another board position? And so you need to ask yourself that, because it is a commitment, right? And it's not a commitment that you can do in the evening hours per se, because boards are run during the day. So that's the first thing that people need to understand. And they need to also understand, if they're employed by an organization, do they have permission to sit on that board? The other thing that I look at is, so once I've kind of cleared that hurdle, right, I then think a little bit about the product or the service. Do I believe in it? Do I think that there's a need in the market? Do I feel like it's something that me on the board, this is something that if somebody sits down next to me and is a potential customer, that I could feel like I could have a good conversation and really help the customer understand why this product or service is superior to somebody else's? The other thing I want to know is I want to understand the skills of the other board members, the skills of the other management team, because you know, we'll probably talk today about diversity in thought and thinking. You don't want everybody around the table to be exactly the same. So I don't want to sit around a table with a whole bunch of genies, right? That's not something I want to do. And what I want to make sure I do is that I like the folks who are around the table. I align with them on their thought process, their thinking style, and as well as that the investors, because many of the companies that we're going on the board for, with the exception of publicly traded organizations, the investors play a large role. And so you want to make sure that you actually like their investment style, how they treat organizations, and their approach to dealing with the management. And last but not least, the CEO. So if you don't believe in that CEO, it's hard to sit on that board. And so I would say to you is, if you're considering it, you need to make sure you like the CEO, you like the investors, you like the product or service, and you also want to make sure that it aligns with your network and how you could use your network.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that.
And one of the questions coming in, it seems like a lot of people want to understand this, which is maybe taking a step back from the point we're at. But how does one or someone seek an open board role? It seems like that world can be quite a mystery. So how do you seek those newly formed boards that could be a great first time experience? Maybe what are the key indications to look out for? And I'll go back to you, Jeanne.
So the first thing is, and because people are using LinkedIn here, make sure that your LinkedIn profile says that you're interested in being on boards, right? So if it doesn't already state that, put it in the header, make sure that you've got the open to board positions. Some of the board positions are going to come through your network, and some of the board positions are going to come through headhunters or recruiters. And what I feel like many people do is they say that they want to go on a board, but they don't know why. And they haven't been able to answer the question of what skills are they really good at? How would those skills support a board position? And then in what industry do they want to be on a board position? So many people that are on products companies, especially in the pharmaceutical or biotech industry, sometimes it's hard to be on a board of a company where you could really lend your scientific or therapeutic expertise, because you would go on a competing products board. So as a result, you have to look then into services or adjacencies of people who potentially you bought their products or services, and that might be a great board for you to go on. The other thing that I would suggest to you is to kind of demystify it is network with a bunch of board members, get to know some private equity and some venture capitalists. Those are other ways that you can get yourself put on boards. But it is 100% about networking, and it's also about kind of your shtick. So what is your role on the board? What are you going to bring to that board?
Yeah. So through your experience, Jeanne, would you say it's not very often or common for companies to advertise board level? Yeah, it's purely network connection
100%.
and you being proactive and reaching out to those. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And it's because it's even hard, right? When you're on a board members don't turn over a lot, right? Typical terms are 3 to 5 years, just depends on what country you're in, and depends on the type of company. And they don't want the board to turn over a lot, right? Because they want you to understand the business, how the business has grown. They want to, they want you to use your network to support that business in its growth journey. And so you're not going to see a lot of board members turn over a lot. So it's important that you do use your network. And it's, and I would say really think about what it is that you plan to contribute to the board. Just because you're technically solid in an area, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but just because you're an amazing scientist does not mean that you're going to be an amazing board member. And so it is about having that general management, the general leadership, that commercially minded, that financially minded brain to be able to sit on a board and effectively contribute.
Amazing.
Maybe I can add to the expectations, right? So different companies, depending on what we talked about, is it an early stage or is it a later stage company, have different expectations from their board members. If it's a really early stage company, someone would expect the board members to be more hands-on. So think about when you're asking for being on the board, the time commitment that you'll be able to devote to this company. Some of my companies are really early stage. I mean, I literally spin them out of the university. So, I think of them as my babies, right? So the board members are really committed to helping the company grow. So what Jeanne was saying, that longitudinal skill set, that general leadership skill set, because it's not going to be just about what you do day to day.
Yeah.
But those kind of board positions, I feel more time commitment. They're usually on equity because the company usually, don't have a lot of cash. So they're equity positions. So you're really ingrained in the success of that company. But it's those kind of roles I feel would put you closer to what would it feel like to be in the C-suite of a startup company. You really get close to working with the C-suite leaders versus, some more mature companies would have different expectations from their board members in different roles. And other companies say my commitment is only quarterly. So really ask about what will be required of me, what time commitment, and think about whether this is a good fit.
I love
Brilliant.
that. And what on that point, I know we want to get to a few other questions as well.
Yeah, we've got lots of questions coming in from the audience, I think.
Yeah. I would just say, is there anything you can just quickly add on that, Stella, to the same question, but when it comes to getting into that C-suite position?
Well, I think I work with a lot of people that are in transition. I guess maybe that's my thing, right? I think it's challenging, but I think anybody who decided they have the courage to do it, I'm going to be there for them. So I actually dedicate about 20% of my time mentoring people. So what I think for the C-suite, think about, I think Jeanne said it very well. Think about what your skill set is and how does it translate to the stage of the company, and how is those contributions are going to be met. It could be that the early stage, because you want to leverage your scientific skills and you're early in that journey, that would be more relevant. Somebody, I know a lot of folks that have been chief medical officer, chief scientific officer, but they've been doing it for a long time. So they not only understand the asset, they are able to transition the scientific value of the asset into the business realm, position it, think of it how it will go through IND enabling phases. The skill set is different, right? So if you pair yourself up with a strong COO and CFO, that could be a good fit. If it's a more established company, if it's a company that's going into Series A, that is a completely different skill set. So I would say first understand where you are. I joke with people that I help is I tell everybody, go do a SWOT assessment on yourself. If you're a brand and if you're the company, do you understand what is your SWOT? How do you differentiate from others? Did you correlate your strength and your weaknesses with what the needs of the companies are? And then do a gap assessment. And then be open and transparent with the people that are hiring you and say, this is what I will need to learn, but I will either get it through the network or can you help me? So that would be the best approach, other than, find mentors.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's some great bit of advice. And actually, we've covered off quite a few questions. Hopefully the audience has asked around mid-level management, moving to senior level, and some advice there.
Some comments here saying personal SWOT is gold.
Yeah.
I want to get another audience question up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to start with
Haley's one was quite good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So Haley's asked, when you know you want more, did you use your network to make the leap? Who supported you to do that in your journeys? And Jeanne, I'll come your way first.
Well, I know Hallie, and she's fantastic. So when you want more, did I use my network? Yes. And I am a firm believer in curating and growing my network. So I spent a lot of time when I decided that I wanted to stay doing advisory and board work. I spent a lot of time reaching out to people, doing a lot of coffees, a lot of virtual coffees at the time because it was during COVID, and spent and invested the time. I actually did something like Stella suggested, so a personal SWOT, and I wrote down what do I want to do and what I don't want to do. What am I good at? What I'm not good at, right? And I spent a lot of time then coming up with some almost like marketing taglines, but taglines about myself. And then when I would have these conversations with individuals, I would tell them that this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. So as you're, engaging or working with individuals within the private equity, VC space, advisory space, and somebody asks a question, I would be honored if you would refer me. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. It took a while. It's not an overnight task. And I also used it because my network, those who are really close to me in my network, so I'd call them definitely first degree connections, but really even maybe half degree connections, or people who understand and know me really well and know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And so I would say things to them like, well, I'm not really great at blank. And so please, when you're thinking about something, if you think that it sits within this based on my SWOT, my aspirations, please feel free to recommend me if you feel comfortable. And so I think I used my network a lot.
Yeah, I've heard the referral and the recommendation piece is high up there.
It is. And one thing about that though too is closing the loop. So when somebody refers you or makes a recommendation about you and they've gone out and said, hey, this is Jeanne Hecht and I want to recommend you, circle back. Let them know you didn't take the job. You weren't interested. You had a great call. It didn't go anywhere. You decided to pull yourself out. Like, make sure you close that loop. I think that's a really important thing that people often forget because we're busy, right?
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I think it's also all part of building a rapport from a longer term perspective as well. You never know when you might want to reach out to that person again, or you might need a helping hand. So closing the loop is respectful, isn't it? So it's a great bit of advice there. Stella, any thoughts with Haley's question here? It's a good question, Haley.
I completely agree with what was already said. I think maybe, again, personally, I would say once you decide and when you know you want more, stay on the course. Have enough confidence in yourself that you will get there. Like most people, it didn't happen for me overnight. And I had to have sort of my decision tree of if this, then that. And then if it's not that, then something else. But my goal has never changed. Maybe how I got there wasn't exactly how I thought it would be there. And maybe I had to take a couple detours. because things maybe didn't quite work out this time around, but stay the course.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. And that's where the network comes in very handy.
I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. That is,
And I
we
think
had a,
I was going to
sorry,
say,
go ahead.
whilst you're on a personal, whilst we're talking about your, personally, both of you, Andrew here, our Chief Commercial Officer at Fraser Dove, he's put in here, what do you live by every day from a 3 leadership principle perspective. So I just thought, whilst we're talking about you both personally, Jeanne, if I come to you, what do you feel like, you live by every single day?
I believe in being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the number one thing. Number 2 is I believe in accountability, both myself and holding others accountable. And probably the third one would be is that I want to build relationships with people. So I don't want it to just be all business. I like it to have a little bit of personal and to be able to share stories and connect with individuals. So those are probably the 3 things that I would say for me.
Yeah, love that. Very humble. Thanks, Jeanne. And Stella, what are your thoughts with this?
Well, I would say I keep talking about stay the course and surround yourself with the right people. You're going to come across multiple people, and you can't control that. You have absolute control about who you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
So
trust. Then it sounds like trust.
Right. You'll surround yourself with people that will lift you up, non pun intended.
Yep.
Right? But number 2, I would say challenge the status quo. A lot of times, maybe I'm known to be a bit of a rebel, but I would be where I am if I didn't continuously challenge the status quo. I believe in transformation. I believe if it's static, then it's pretty much going to be dead. That's my anthropology background, right? Everything that evolve or adopt becomes extinct. So do challenge the status quo and think differently about who you are, about your career, your path, and that will enable you to think differently about the company and what you offer and about the asset and about the science. It just becomes this innovative engine that drives you. So think differently.
Love that. Thanks, Stella. We may run a few little minutes over because we've got some brilliant stuff coming through. If you're okay to keep on for a few minutes, but John, I think you've engaged a couple of times in the comments, so thank you very much for doing that. But excellent ideas for the personal SWOT gap analysis and curating your network. I think Hayley as well, just obviously on the back of her question, stay the course. I love that. Thank you. Sometimes you need to remind yourself of that very thing. And, sometimes it is just like back to basics or just having conversations which refresh the mind. I think Andrew here as well, pick the mentors you need, not necessarily the ones who are nicest to you. The best mentors I have had cared enough to give me heaps of tough love, which I think is very important. Lovely. There was one. Is there something jumping out to you, Rosey?
I mean, there's lots coming in. Thank you so much. It's a shame we actually couldn't get through them all. But I was going to say, I don't know if we want to go to one more audience question and then finish on our question we ask everyone.
Could do. Yeah, the myths one I think came out quite a lot on our community group chat, because this sort of perception versus reality, we could get a couple of blend in here. What do you feel are the most common beliefs or potential myths that sit behind executing a C-suite level role, board level role, which I guess sometimes with that perception can come with common failures and lessons that you've perhaps learned at executing at that level. So what are your thoughts with this one, Jeanne? I think we touched on this a few weeks ago, didn't we? So what are your thoughts?
So I think the first thing, I've been in several C-suite positions and on several boards. And the first thing is that individuals in those positions don't do work. They just talk. And that is a big myth. And so I think especially the smaller the organization, but even as big as organizations get, the C-suite spend a lot of their time. Yes, they spend a lot of their time in meetings, but they also spend a tremendous amount of their time reviewing and evaluating and developing strategies to execute. So I had a boss who once told me that said that regardless of the size of the company, when you get to that C-suite position, you always have to be willing to pick up a mop. And so for me, it's Sometimes you're walking in, you're cleaning out the conference room, right? It doesn't make a difference. You're not beneath any job duty that's required. So that's a big myth. The other thing I would say is, for me, when I think about other myths that people have, it's the fact that when you get to the top, there's still always a sense of insecurity that sits within the person sitting at that top. There's also still always an opportunity for them to learn. They don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm a curious learner. I want to ask lots of questions. And I think as a result, sometimes a myth is that we have all the answers. No, we don't have all the answers, but we have strategies to help us come up collectively with the right answer. And we're probably willing to put ourselves out there from a risk perspective, which means that we fail, and we fail often. And the most important thing that we do is we fail quickly and we move on.
Yeah, absolutely sound advice. Is there anything that you can add to that, Stella?
I connect to all of that. One thing that I would say is that I've seen that people a lot of times romanticize the title.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting challenge, because there you are, you got your first CEO role, and I've seen this so many times. And then all of a sudden, when the fireworks are over, and you have to roll up your sleeves and schedule your own meetings and write your own PowerPoint presentations and go call 50 investors that you don't know to present to them why you're so passionate about this technology, and 49 of them will not respond. And the one that responded then will forget, and they will go on vacation, they'll have a life, and won't get back to you. Then all of a sudden, in 6 months, I get a call from that CEO and say, this is really not what I thought I was going to be. I just really wanted to, be a leader, build a team, and maybe run operations. Or I miss my science, or I miss my patients. So a lot of times, I really encourage people really understand the difference between the personality, what you really want to do. And that's why I'm never a CEO of my own companies anymore. I used to be, and I'm not. I have an independent C-suite. I stay on the board, but I choose to be the CEO for somebody else who can leverage my skills, and I can probably deselect emotional connection to that product and really treat it as a business. But that's a big myth. A lot of people just want the romance that comes with it. Don't understand the actual job.
Yeah, thank you. I think both of you have answered this question truly, authentically, and truthfully, humbly, and actually both, from slightly different stances, which collectively together, I think, what a great, inspiring bit of advice. So we're running, as we usually are,
running over, but let's
Rosey.
run to the last question, I suppose. This is something we ask everyone, and you both will probably have some great insight from it. So what's the single best bit of career advice you have ever received in your journey? I will come to you, Stella, first.
I think I already shared it. Be resilient, stay the course.
Love it.
For me, it's the 3 C's: be clear, be consistent, and be concise.
Yeah, great. Wow, that was very concise. That was the concisest answer we got to the questions.
Now, before we close, I was just going to say, before we close out today, we have got a really exciting announcement. It is going to be going live online across all our forums as well. And we've actually booked in our first face-to-face forum. So Lift Up Connect is going to be at CPHI, hosting a breakfast morning. And it's going to be hosted by the wonderful Sigma Mustafa, who is the Chief Scientific Officer at KBI Biopharma. So look out on LinkedIn and across our social forums, because we'll be pumping out there to hopefully get out in person and meet some of you, which is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, it is. But we're on a whole kind of new strategy and journey, I think, for the community group, aren't we, Rosey? As we enter into our second year of the group being live, including mentorship programs, etc. So we're really excited to launch quite a lot as we move into the end part of this year. But thank you, Rosey, as well. She's done a tremendous job at getting that Lift Up Connect together. So thank you to her and all the team here within Fraser Dove has been a part of that. But look, thank you so much as well to all the audience. We've had some excellent questions coming through, and apologise now if we've not had the chance to get to some of your questions. We can always try as best as possible, extract them, maybe get Jeanne and Stella offline to maybe respond or give thoughts, and we can throw them back into the community group. But thank you so much for everybody that has joined us today. And of course, thank you both to Jeanne and Stella. Excellent key speakers with us today, and some inspiring words for hopefully many of you to take away. I certainly feel like I will take away some great snippets from this live. So yes, thank you Rosey, of course, and we look forward to our next live event next month. Take care, everybody. Thanks. Bye bye.
Take care, everyone. Be well.
Bye.